If you want to see a Nollywood time loop movie concept, whose substance abuse warning was probably referring to the writer, as this entire enterprise is an embarrassment to the creative process. A story that can be called a movie only because movie cameras were used in shooting it, and a weird limbo world where someone's conscience is presented as a half naked man doing suya for some reason. The Bead, starring Zainab Balogun and a set of nonsensical waist beads, is the movie for you. This movie, written and directed by Moyoluwa Ezekiel, and which is currently showing on Prime Video, follows the popular and overbeaten time loop concept that were made viral by classics such as Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day, Edge of Tomorrow, and so many others. What sets this particular one apart is that, unlike the ones that I've listed above, the beat suffers from a stunning lack of imagination and is shocking in the ordinariness of its logic and lack of ambience. But let me not get ahead of myself. Let's just do a quick recap while pointing out all the weird stuff. The movie details the strange day that Ronti, our main character and bride, is having in the day leading up to and including her wedding. We open up with someone beating cancer or something in an old memory. The thing that they are beating is not clear, but if you ask me, they're just beating around the bush after, having surgery on the bone of contention. Honestly, I'm not sure who these people are. And since this is never referenced again, I'm not sure why it's in this movie. Is that Ronti? I don't care. Back to the present day, which happens to be Ronti's wedding day. There's a lot of chit chat among the women folk who have arrived to honor her this big day. That's her family members, including this lady, Chigel, who seems to be under the impression that she can act. It was difficult not to cringe whenever she awkwardly tried to make something funny by either verbal or physical comedy. Now, happy that her granddaughter Ronti was about to get hitched, the grandma bequeaths a gift of seemingly omnipotent waist beads with the description that the beads will protect her new family from pains and sorrow or something. It's very unclear. Ronti was reluctant at first, but her grandma insisted, citing example of the other family members who also had their own waist beads, to the success of their own marriage. A very weak and nonsensical reason, especially as Chigel is currently in a very strange marriage with Ronti's uncle. So the whole plot point giving the beads meaning was already demolished by the writer before it even got going. Ronti's friends are staying with her for the big day and everything seems alright with the world, right up until that moment during the engagement ceremony or the wedding, where she is happily dancing with her husband when a shot rings out and the bullet goes through her neck. Now, she crumples within view of the red cap of the shooter while her husband rushes to catch her. This obviously doesn't help and she suffers the embarrassment of dying on her wedding day. And psych, as she immediately jolts awake to the surprise of her close friends and discovers herself right back at the beginning of her wedding day that same morning, still in her PJs and on her bed. And before she returns back in time, she appears on a beach with a shirtless guy talking esoteric things that feels like it might be connected to her death. Like it was like some sort of limbo or purgatory. I'm not sure. Unfortunately, the dialogue here is very smelly because the girl tells the man that she wants to leave and get married. And when she finally comes around to asking who the man is, he says,
You should be asking yourself questions and not me. Questions like, what do I want?
like, bro, are you insane? Did she not just say,
All I want to do is get married. How hard can it be?
she finally wakes up, like I said, and then goes through the whole day before the wedding and day on the wedding and getting killed again repeatedly until she just had to give in to the panic and confess to her grandmother. They then came to the conclusion that the beads were protecting her from death, somehow. I don't know. The grandmother seems to have some inside knowledge about these beads that we know nothing about, but okay, if you say so. So the next time it happens, the grandma kind of gets into the vibe by remembering that her daughter had told her that this would happen or something. Anyway, I really want to discuss this scene because it's so badly done. The killer shoots the jauntily dancing Ronti and she falls dead. But her mother is already also looking dead behind her in every iteration of this experience, which I didn't really understand because the mother was sitting down and never really in the line of fire. And in this particular instance, her grandmother also seems to have fainted for some reason. I don't know. And for some reason, the family members abandoned the bride who had been shot to death, abandoned the mother of the bride who seems to be comatose somehow, and gathered the grandmother. I really don't understand the logic here at all. This time loop thing happens a few more times, and at some point, she dies by drowning because she accosted the man before the wedding. And I only bring up this point because the fight that led to her drowning is so funny. Like, look at how they are fighting like two primary school girls, for God's sake. Like, just an irritatingly low energy movie. Like, everybody was a bit high when they were shooting this thing. Ronti finally sees the man's face and draws it for her father when the time loop starts again, asking him if he knows who her future killer is. Well, it turns out that he does. So here is the story. Once upon a time, which was, well, basically 3 years before, her father's hostel, being constructed by a developer, collapsed, killing some people, not students, of course, because it's still being constructed. So I'm going to get some random people. Now, the father paid, well, he said he paid compensations, but one of the victims' fathers took Ronti's dad to court for reasons. I'm not sure what the court case is about since they never actually tell us. But Ronti's father won the case, causing everlasting bitterness for the victim's father, who is now hell-bent on killing Ronti on her wedding day. That's it, too. That's the entire very dull backstory. Okay, so we have it. Now, Ronti wants to kind of contact the man and, see the case file so that she can get the man's details and go see him for a possible resolution. But her father is against it. Of course, the father doesn't know that, that Ronti had this weird time loop thing. So she co-opts the housemaid into retrieving the document from her father's room for her. And since this movie was written by 3 school children, the document from 3 years ago was just sitting gingerly on her father's cabinet, like all sexy and available for some hot stealing. It was like the weirdest thing. The maid just enters the room and there the thing just is. 3 years later, in furtherance of this harebrained plan, for some reason, Ronti decides to exchange clothes with the housemaid and then gets into a trash bin so that the maid can then take her to the car. Now, if you are going to be in a trash bin, why are you changing clothes? And how is the maid's clothes, jeans and top, supposed to camouflage you? Like, you are not even in the same, you don't even have the same BMI. And I'm not sure why just changing clothes would... Also, Shebi, you call this an exchange, so why is the maid not wearing your sexy wedding robes? Just stupidity everywhere. Ronti, along with her grandma and her uncle, played by Lateef Adedimeji, who has no other job in this movie than to maybe do this driving, honestly, because he's just a useless character. They end up visiting the killer, played by Segun Arinze, to hear his side of the story, I think, and beg his forgiveness. Now, we still don't know the specifics of the case or how Ronti's father was criminally liable, but this is a Nigerian movie, so the writer doesn't know it either, making this entire enterprise ring very hollow. They finally arrive and beg Segun Arinze, and that's it. The wedding happens and she doesn't die. The movie just ends. I kid you not. Like, nothing about whoever had the cancer at the beginning, nothing about what happened to that weird limbo place, like where is the beat from? Is it like an eternal, everlasting, immortal, giving, whatever? No further details about, well, anything. Yeah, and there we have it. If you actually watch this movie, you see that there are so many weird points that don't make any sense. For me, one of them is, why do Ronti's family have an old Benz parked in their living room? Like, to what end, since it never comes up in the movie? And just in general, what kind of a human being would park a car in their living room? Even if it's a Rolls Royce, like, they bring out a new model of these things every year. Like, so what sort of stupid vanity is that one? Okay, you like old things, and so what? I also like old things, and you don't see me cooking rice with firewood, do you? So I don't. It's like an empty barrel making useless noise. Like, I'm talking to the actual owner of this otherwise fine and very roomy house. I don't get it. It should not have been shown in the film because it's not like the father is a car collector or anything. We know almost nothing about the father. So why is there an old Benz in your living room? It just sounds so crazy. Did I mention that the guy she speaks with at the beach identified himself as her conscience? Like, what has her conscience got to do with this story? Is the writer high? Why is her conscience doing barbecue and telling her that if she eats it, she will not come back to life? So is it that the goat meat suya is mightier than the magic of the beads? And why was nothing actually said about the beads again? Like, how does it work? Why does it work? Why are there people? So is it that people who wear it never die? Like, somebody please help me understand. That limbo place, is it... Why was she talking to her conscience and begging him to bring her to life if it was really the beads that had the power of life? And Finally, this movie is like a general, like I mentioned, all-round embarrassment to the creative process. The writer-director was possibly high and took the very first draft of their idea into a production, like the very first draft. It was lazily shot, lazily edited and graded, and so soporific that I had to watch it over 3 sessions before I could write a review. The characters were uber thin, the storyline was watery, and the whole point of this production was rather elusive. Is it money laundering something? I'm also aware that Zainab Balogun revisited this plot line in Landline, which was a movie I reviewed last year, which had its issues but didn't suck nearly as much. I think that was the first time I was really noticing Bucci Franklin. Yes. You can watch that review and let me know what you think in the comments. They wanted to bamboozle us with their weird logic in that movie, but Ekwe went to school. Thank you very much. Anyway, so that's all I have for you. If you want to keep in touch with me, you can, like this video. It makes it easy for, for YouTube to recommend it to other people. You can check me out on IG and on Twitter at Ekwe Reviews. A few days ago, I actually reviewed this movie on my IG stories live while I was watching it. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, you can give me a follow and, laugh at my takes when I am watching this stuff in my house in real life. All right. See you on the next one.